So in Mitzvah Hashem today we're going to be discussing Adar, Parshas Tetzaveh, and Purim Kattan, and how good things come in small packages. So this week's Parshas Tetzaveh, is the closing of a period of time known as Shovavim Tat. Shovavim Tat is the Rosh Tevos of Shmos, Va'era, Boi, Beshalach, Yisro, Mishpatim, Truma, Tetzaveh. The Parshios that we've read up until now, from the beginning of Sefer Shmos until now. And it's brought down in the Svarim HaKadoshim that the time of Shovavim, there's an extra koyach, an extra energy in the air to do tshuva. And this week's Parshas Tetzaveh, is the closing of this period. And just like at the end of Yom Kippur we have Ne'ilah, which is the most uplifting, the last chance, our last efforts to close and end on a good note, which is really to start on a good note. Parshas Tetzaveh is the Ne'ilah Sashar. And the Alter Miklem writes, Shebishas hachasima shel Shovavim Tat, Noisein Avinu Shebashamayim ha'izdamnut lekol echad ve'echad lahashlim u'litzakein ma shelo hispik litzakein b'yemei hashovavim. During the time of Ne'ilah, of the period of Shovavim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives every person an opportunity to complete and to fix that which he didn't fix during this entire time period. So at Tefillah, going into the Shabbos of Parshas Tetzaveh and ending this period of Shovavim, of the extra koyach to do tshuva in the winter, we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Psach lanu shar be'eis ne'ilah sashar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, open for us this gate when the gates are closing. And what we're asking here to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, we want to draw, we want to extend and stretch the opportunity that we had during Shovavim Tat. It should extend throughout the entire year. Mashal Mahadav Adoime, a king, he had a very son who was very beloved, but the son was a shovav, as we say. He was wild, he was disobedient, and he needed to be punished. So the king sent him out of the palace, and he went out exploring the world, and he was very poor, and he put together some pennies. He finally got himself a house, but he lived as a very poor person. And time went on, and time went on, and time went on, and this extremely wealthy prince was now reduced to rags and to living in a dilapidated hut. The king was touring the countryside, and the minhag of the king is that anyone who comes before him is granted the wish that he requests. Comes this poor beggar, who was really the king's son, and asks him, my roof leaks. Could the king please grant me some tar and pitch so I can fix the holes in my roof? The fool asked to come back to the palace. So when we're asking at Parshas Tetzaveh, and Tetzaveh from Lashon, Tzakos Hadal Takshiv V'Toishia, the outcrying of the poor, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will hear, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help. We're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, please, let us continue to stretch this light of Shovavim into the coming weeks. So, Tetzaveh also is the beginning of Chodesh Adar, and this year, because it's a leap year, we already had an extension of Shovavim, because if Truma and Tetzaveh is the same week as it is in a non-leap year, so it's shorter. This year we had Truma and Tetzaveh, we had an extra week of Shovavim, and we want to just draw it out so that we can continue to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what do we want, Hashem? We want you. We want to be closer to you. So there's a pasuk that says, Ki ata shavnu zeh pa'amayim, and because we now returned twice. And the word zeh is a remez in Gematria. It's Yud Beis 12, and this is a hint to the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, that the month of Adar has a very strong koyach of tshuva, like the month of Elul. But Adar is from Ahava, Adar is tshuva from love, and Elul is tshuva from yira, tshuva from fear. And in fact, one of the greatest things that Mordechai HaTzadik did during the time of the Gezerah of Haman, of the decree of Haman, was that, as it says in the Megillah, Vayeshev Mordechai el Shar HaMelech, and Mordechai returned to the gates of the king. And we know that every time it says the king in the Megillah, it's not only referring to Achashverosh, but there's a deeper sod here where it's referring to the Melech Malchei Hamlochim. It's referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mordechai HaTzadik brought the koyach of tshuva into the world in a stronger, more potent form. Because at the time of the Gezerah of Haman, it looked like impossible. What's going to happen? Haman has the king wrapped around his finger. In fact, the Gemara in Maseches Megillah even tells us that Achashverosh wanted even more to get rid of the Yidden than Haman did. They were two partners. Mashal Mahadavar Domer, someone who has a huge pile of sand, and someone who has a huge pit in his backyard. Comes the person who has all the sand and says, let me put my sand in your pit, and we solve the problem. Great. This was the relationship between Achashverosh and Haman. Why should anything change? And Adarabah, why should it change? We're so big.